Greetings, YouTube. Please forgive the fan noises behind me. It's rather warm here today. Today I'm going to talk about Nebuleon, an SF RPG from Hinterwelt Enterprises. And I was a little confused about when this book was actually published, because in the inside cover it says 1996, but one of the illustrations in here has the date of 2003. So I'm not really sure when this book ever saw print, but it was originally $35, and that seems like it would have been released sometime in the last, 5-6 years, maybe? I'm not sure. It seems like the price point you would have found in that era. I bought this game blind. Went on to Amazon one day and just started poking around using the search parameters of science fiction role-playing game. And with the acronym of over here, SFRPG, I found this one. I got it for less than $10, shipping included. So I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. The description made it sound like it was kind of interesting. I didn't read any reviews. There's only one. And so I thought I'd give it a shot. And I'm not really impressed with this book. And there's a number of reasons why. So the first thing I noticed when I started looking at the book, it is on page 15, when we actually start getting into the gist of the skills, was what my first tip off. But I did think it was kind of weird that when you were generating your characteristics, you roll 3 die 20 and pick the highest. So you're automatically skewing yourself to the high range, because stats run from 1 to 20. So the game's already out of the gate is saying, okay, we want everybody skewed to the high end. Why they didn't just do a point buy, I don't know. To me, that would have made more sense. Or used an array also would have made more sense. But there's a lot of this game which really makes me think of 1986. Not 1996 or 2005 or whatever it was actually released in. Maybe even 1983. Old school feel with a lot of it. But the thing that really tripped me off was here. Okay, if you get a skill point, it means that you have one skill point, means you have a 40% chance of success. So no one is ever worse than 40% chance successful at anything. Then it goes to 60. Apparently there is no 50-50 break in this game. Then it goes to 70, 75, 80, 82, 84, 86, 88, 90. At 11 skill points, you are now into 91, 92, 93, all the way up to 95, I believe, is where it caps. To me, that's not a lot of bang for your buck at those upper levels. You're putting a skill point into something to get a 1% difference? And yes, you're using a game that uses die 20s, die 30s, and percentiles all as resolution mechanisms. Why they don't have one unified mechanic, I don't know. I like unified mechanics. I think they help things flow better. They were talking about a strength check at one point in this book, and they said if you had a strength of 22, which is 2 points over above the human maximum, but potential if you were playing an alien, and you would roll a die 20. Why you would roll a die 20 with a 22 stat, I'm not sure. But if you rolled a die 20 and you got a 20, you would then have to roll a die 30 against a 22. Now, on a die 20, every point is 5%. Okay? So a 20 is a 100% chance of success. A 22 score would give you a 110% chance of success. On a die 30, every point represents 3.3%. So a 22 score on a die 30 is a little over 70% chance of success, which is the equivalent of a 14 on a die 20. So by jumping to a die 30, you have just devalued that superhuman stat to something only slightly above average. And this is a game where no stat gets a bonus unless it's 15 or higher. Again, very old school, very first edition D&D. I can't remember when the second edition D&D stat started, but it was close to that. They didn't start as low as they did in third. All right? And then we went to the strength. Now, the strength in here is listed as a 10, and the 10 or 11 is going to be human average. It gives you a maximum lifting weight of 45 kilograms, 90 pounds. Okay, 90, a little, almost 100 pounds. Okay, I can buy that. And then you get maximum human capacity, which is 250 kilograms. Again, not the actual most you can actually push if you're trained perfectly for that, but pretty darn good. But then they get into like the scores above a 20. And at 25, you have a lifting capacity of 6,000 kilograms. The chart ends at 30, and at that level, it's 21,000 kilograms. And this is muscle and bone we're talking about, folks. Muscle and bone can't lift 21,000 kilograms. So I was beginning to become discouraged. But here's the one thing that got me, which was editing. I want you to look at this image. See that line right across the center of that image? That's not my computer, or my camera, or your screen. That's a line in the image. How did that get past editing? I don't get it. The description of these particular aliens say that they are from a swampy, hostile environment, and because of that, they have a happy-go-lucky attitude. You go talk to someone on Earth that's from a hostile country. Sudan during the conflict, Somalia right now, Central America during the Reagan-Bush years. You ask them, you were in a hostile or are in a hostile environment, does that make you happy-go-lucky? The answer will be no. What it does do is give you post-traumatic stress disorder. So at this point in the book, I just started skimming. And then they started talking about the whole concept of it's the third millennium, and they started talking about the past of progenitor race, and then they started talking about the fact that there was an evil race of lizard men that are out there to wipe out all people in the universe that aren't their race because it's part of their holy mission. And I'm like, oh wow, this is really trite. So I got more discouraged. Then I started looking at the technology, and they're talking about things like nanotechnology and stealth technology as though it is in the far future. They were discussing these pieces of technology as though we have not gotten as far in them as we have already today, 2,000 years in the future. Which makes, again, think that this book was written a long time ago. In the little chart they give for your fortitude points, and they actually have a chart that shows you head and body locations. The gentleman likes those charts. I hate them. Too cumbersome, too much bookkeeping. Particularly because this has a chart location hits for all of your armor. Then once you get through your armor, then it now starts having to take fortitude points off of your body. So you got two little charts to take care of. Well, if you look at the little chart, it shows, written in the blank one, it says HP. It doesn't say fortitude points. It says HP hit points. Previous in the book, there's a mention that you use a skill, piety. Now, why is there a piety stat in a science fiction game? But when we're discussing some of these things, it discusses the fact that these are used for magical spells. And yet in the technology area, they talk about the fact that no magic technology is used. So, it to me looks like somebody took a fantasy role-playing game that they liked, that they had developed for their group, filed the serial numbers off of it, slapped the name science fiction role-playing game on it, and presented it to the world as a science fiction role-playing game. There's even skill lists in here under thief. This strikes me as shoddy writing, poor editing, disconnected mechanics that aren't consistent. A 22 on a 30 compared to a 22 on a die 20. Big difference, folks. So I can't recommend this game. I don't think you should involve yourself with it in the least. Could you maybe describe it as a science fiction role-playing game heartbreaker? I'm not sure. But definitely, don't get this game. It's not worth your time. I only making this video today, even though it's negative, because I don't want people spending money on this. Sink your money into BRP or Star Wars D20 or D20 Modern if you want to run a science fiction game. All of those games will do that admirably. You could even use Everstone, The Blood Legacy quite well if you wanted to. All of these use unified mechanics, more consistent, better quality, better support material, and better editing. So, go forth, folks, and don't buy this.